The Vera and Chime Show. 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 Let's talk about it. 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 On the Vera Time Show. Let's talk about it. Yeah.
Hello, hello, hello. I am excited about my guest tonight. His name is Ray Kopakowski. Hello, Ray. How are you today?
Vera, I'm fantastic. How are you? Nice to
I
see you
am.
again.
It's good to see you again. We had a
Yeah,
little glitch the last time you were here, so I felt that we needed to do it over
yeah.
without any glitches so that we could have a
Well,
conversation.
I could use one of my favorite words. I could say we had a kerfluffle.
Okay.
A ker- I
I'm not
don't
going
know
to
where
try
I
to
got
say
that.
that.
Yeah, kerfluffle. Any chance I get.
Awesome. Well, let me start by telling our audience the root of partnership is a desire to be happy. Now, how does Raymond navigate every area of his life so it filters back in a way that makes him happy? That's what we're going to find out today. Listening and caring for everyone is a building block. He tells people to learn how to be in partnership before you're in one. Well, Raymond, I'm so glad you're here.
Yep,
I
me
want you
too.
to share uh, with our audience a little bit about you, starting with growing up. What was that like for you? And how did you move from relationships to partnerships? And then we're going to just have conversations. So I'm going to give you the floor.
Okay, all right. How far do you want to go back? you know,
I know
we
you just wait before you do that. You just celebrated a birthday
Yes, I did.
yesterday.
I did
Happy
yesterday.
birthday. How was
75.
it? 75?
Yeah, 75 years old. It was wonderful. My honey took me to what's it called? Cheesecake Factory, which I don't know that I've ever been to one, but it was really nice,
Yeah.
and we had a great time. And it's just so nice to have her with me and have that partnership. And I'm sitting across the table looking at this beautiful woman and saying, wow, what did I do?
Oh, well,
you
I'm
know,
so happy for you. I am
thank
so
you.
happy for you. And
Thank
I'm
you.
glad that you had a wonderful birthday and
Yeah.
75 years.
You know,
I'm asking you to go back.
I'll tell you what. Yeah. Well, right around my birthday is a very introspective time. I think when we talked before, I told you that we started off, and I told you that I was born drunk. That my mother was a lesbian. She had been raped. I met her many, many years later, but she had been raped by a bunch of guys. They tried to rape her straight and this type of thing. And she hated me. She hated everything, took it all out on herself. And I felt very bad for her when I finally met her. But she said that she didn't draw a sober breath the entire pregnancy. She said that she would get drunk and punch herself in the stomach, and she would try to abort me, and and everything, and nothing that she did worked. So so it was when I finally met her. I met her because she was trying to get sober, and she was doing a fifth step and trying to say she's sorry and stuff. She didn't do a very good job by it, but it didn't matter. It was a good attempt. But I felt terrible for her. I felt like yeah, I understood. I understood why my life went the way that it did. The effect that she had on me by hating me and me feeling that. I'm sure I felt that, in utero. But and that feeling, I spent my whole life just wanting people to want me. It was a constant kind of, if I do this, will you care for me? I was in show business at 9, and it should have been a great time. It should have been a wonderful time,
What
but
were you
really,
doing?
I sung. I was the youngest person ever to sing for the Lyric Opera Company in Philadelphia. I did La Boheme when I was 9, and then I did Lohengrin when I was 11 years old. I was the boy prince in Lohengrin, and so that was a subsidiary of the Met, the Metropolitan Opera Company, but it was still Philadelphia. And then after that, I danced. I studied with the Philadelphia Ballet Company. I did a bunch of variety shows. I did a couple shows with Carol Burnett, and I did some off Broadway plays and things like that. I was very well on my way, and I got to a point where I would walk into a room and they would know I was coming, and I wouldn't have to audition. They'd go, "Yeah, he either fits the part or he doesn't fit the part." But I didn't.
Wow.
I stopped auditioning at that point. My voice, preceded me, so to speak. I left that in the '60s. I moved away from that type of show business. The '60s brought in. I started doing LSD with the intention of finding God, and in the very early stages of that. So I did a bunch of that. When it turned into a party drug, I stopped. I got into rock and roll. I got into jazz. I had a band that was a warm up band for Miles Davis. Everything that I've ever done, I've sort of been like right on the edge of making it. It was not. I was never a slouch. There was a time I replaced Jim Croce in a band.
Did you?
Yes, Jim Croce was he had recorded his album. He was going to go out on the road. He had a guitar player with him named Maury Muehlhausen, and they didn't want the band, so him and Maury went out as a duo, and so I ended up being the singer that replaced him, in that band, a band called Phoenix, oddly enough. you know um
Wow.
and so, I mean, I've had a real interesting life. I ended up being a drug addict, and that was rough. I lost 7 friends. I'm from Camden, New Jersey, and a lot of my friends, including myself, can attest to the fact that heroin leads to smoking pot, not the other way around. We did a lot of codeine and this type of thing. It was a little ghetto town, and and I would go from the stage and traveling around in limos and like cabs and stuff throughout New York, and to back into Camden, where we were wondering if there was going to be food on the table. My
Wow.
mother, I was adopted by a wonderful family, very nice people, but my mother was very sick and she had diabetes, and she had a bunch of issues. She went blind, and they spent most of their time taking care of her, and it seemed like they just assumed that I was going to be fine. I don't feel a connection with them, but I think
Wait a
I
minute. You don't feel a connection with your
adopted.
adoptive
Yeah,
parents?
yeah, yeah. I was, and that was me. That's part of what happened in the past couple of days, in going deep inside and trying to find out what's holding me back, what's still affecting me. And I realized that no amount of love that anybody gave me was going to fix what had happened to me. And I'm sure that my mother was a wonderful woman, but I have no memory whatsoever of her being loving to me, supportive, affectionate. I don't remember a single conversation with my dad, but I left home at 16 too.
Okay, well, back up. There are a
Yeah,
couple questions, but first I also want to acknowledge people that have come on. So, King Hazy, Only Hayes, YouTube channel, he says, "Good evening, all. Peace up." Well, I'm glad you're here. Thank you for being here. And then Kenny, he says, "I love to have a chance to tell testimonial and teach and tell that's what I do." Well, we can talk about that, but I'm glad you're here and feel free to share in the comments as we
sure.
are having our discussion. So thank you for being here. Now, let me ask you so you starting at an early age in the entertainment business,
Yeah.
how did that start? Did your parents kind of move you into that? How did that
Uh,
start?
from what I understand, I went to a Catholic school, and one of the nuns noticed that I was not only on key all the time. I could instantly remember a song, and she came to my family and said, he has a talent. I mean, it's like he's worlds away from all these other kids. So my family thought that they were doing me a solid, and they said, okay, so what do we do? And they got me an audition with Edna Wood, who also happened to be teaching Carol Burnett at the time.
Oh, wow.
And I had my audition for it. She wasn't the kind of vocal coach that you could just go to and pay the money and get it. You had to pass tests and all this kind of stuff. So I did that, and I got in, and then my second or third week of lessons, they had an agent there. I was signed with an agent, signed with a manager. 2 weeks after that, or a couple of weeks after that, I auditioned for the Lyric Opera Company, and I got it on the spot. And so, they set me up with a place to stay, and then I started rehearsing there, and that's pretty well the way it went.
Wow. Well, let me
Yeah,
ask you, because I can only imagine when you said you were seeking, you wanted people to love you, to
sure.
pay attention to you. And when you didn't get that, how did that make you feel?
I think it was a constant. I think that whenever, and I made it happen too. If somebody really cared about me, I had this feeling. I had this when mothers are supposed to be loving. Mothers are supposed to want you and care about you. And when a mother rejects a baby, it's probably the baby's fault. That was my thinking. Okay, that's how I
Oh.
felt, and I really didn't have any way of expressing it. But looking at it, in retrospect, looking at it, that seems to fit very, very well. So, anybody that really said that they cared about me, wanted to be around me because I was a professional singer, wanted to be there because I was going to be famous. They had an ulterior motive. The people that, and the problem with that is that I don't recall anybody ever asking me if I wanted to sing, if I wanted to perform. They just put me out there. So it was all a part of it, is that it wasn't about me. It was the fact that I could sing, the fact that I was a good performer. That's why people wanted me, but they didn't want me. And the same thing happened when I went on the road with rock and roll bands and stuff, and I was touring with bands. And I was with Jolly Joyce agencies at the time, and we were touring behind Junior Walker and the All Stars. It was not as big as it could get, but at the time, this was a long time ago, and so it was a lot of fun. And I ended up thinking that I was all that. I was the lead singer in the band, and all these women were coming on to me. And and I mean, I could have sex 5 days a week if I had wanted to. uh, but and it
And that
fitted.
is that is the life of a musician. You know,
It
it
really
really
is.
is. I
But
was married to a musician, so I do
oh,
understand.
you poor baby.
Well, I'm not married anymore. So,
But I see, it
and
makes sense.
we have some comments that I want to kind of touch
Sure.
on. King says, not a problem at all. I'll continue to visit your discussions. I appreciate that. And I hope that you have subscribed to my channel. And I do hope that you continue to share it with others. And then we have Miss Ru- Ruxana. I hope I
Uh-huh.
said that right.
Sounds
Ruxana.
right.
That's
Yeah.
pretty. Thank you for being here and watching. Where are you guys watching from? If you could put that in the chat, that would be great. But thank you for being here. All right. So,
See,
yes, go
so
ahead.
even with that, I was smart enough to, maybe I didn't know it consciously, but I was smart enough to know that they did not want me. They wanted the lead singer of the band. You see, and so once again, I could transfer that whole thing and say nobody wants me. Nobody really is ever going to love me.
So, how did
And
you get past that?
well, being on the road, alcohol and drugs, I mean, it became a real big part of my life. I went on the road one time and I was moderately addicted to heroin. I was in the beginning part of that kind of addiction, and luckily, I got picked up before it went completely crazy. And so, I had a bit of a withdrawal, but I covered that up with scotch. And so continued to tour, and I continued after music stopped for me. I was in the drug. People liked me. People would bring me around. I mean, I hardly ever paid for anything, and I ended up with this girl who was she was pretty big as far as selling coke in Hollywood area. She there was a lot of cocaine and a lot of money. And I was with her, and we smoked a boatload of cocaine, and I started having seizures.
Oh, no.
I fell into a plate glass window in
Oh,
Brentwood at a
no.
supermarket there and shattered I shattered a window and didn't get a scratch.
What?
So you want to tell me that I'm not somebody's not protecting me, somebody's not keeping me around so that I could do this. I never knew that this was going to be a part of my life. I thought I was just going to keep going on. Everything I touched, I could do. People would say, do you know how to make furniture? Sure, I can make furniture. I had a woodworking company. I had no idea how to make furniture, but I look at something and sure I could do it, and I did it well. I was good. It was a weird life. Janet, it drives Janet crazy because it's one of those things that somebody says, can you do this? And I just go, yeah, sure. And I have no idea if I can do it or not, but
That's
I do it,
amazing.
you
That's
know?
amazing. Well, let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Given how, your childhood, given that you did not feel the love,
Yeah.
especially coming from a mother, and also given that you resorted and ask actually, I would say that the drug use, the drinking, that was masking
Sure.
some of the pain that you were feeling.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. Yeah.
one, when did you get to that point where you realized, where the drugs and alcohol was concerned, that enough was enough? When did you realize that?
I was not the kind of person that sat around. I never really sat there and thought about things. It took an awful long time for me to understand that people do that. People will sit there and they'll look at a situation and they'll think about it. I sort of just danced through everything. And when the girl that I was living with asked me, she said, "You got to leave. You're sorry, but all the stuff that's going on with you, you're going to get me in trouble." And I said, "Oh, okay." So I walked out. I was homeless, and walking around in the streets in Hollywood, in that area. And so, my cuteness wasn't working for me. The stuff that people would carry me around for wasn't working for me anymore. But I had somebody come up and say, I was trying to bum money. And this person said, well, if you go down to the corner to that place there, they'll give you coffee and cookies. And I said, oh, okay, that sounds good. And I didn't care. I went and had coffee and cookies. During that time, I was slipping into a really, really bad spot. I was not, I thought that was able to hold a good conversation, but when you took the drugs away, I sort of became incoherent. I sort of became one of those people that you see on the streets and you go, let's cross over. He looks a little weird, kind of thing. I had a guy, he took me under his wing and ended up my sponsor. And he gave me a job. It's in AA. I forget what they call that. A commitment. He gave me a commitment in AA, and my job was to be out in front of the log cabin, and I had to pick up on the lawn there. I had to pick up the non-filtered cigarette butts. That was my job. So this is tell you how screwed up my head was. If I found a cigarette butt that had a filter in it, I put it back where I found it. Because my job was the non-filtered cigarette butts. See, I took it very seriously.
Yes. Now, what was why did he have you do that? What was the lesson in that?
To keep me around.
Okay.
Give me a purpose. It's like, look, if you want to hang out here and you can sleep you can sleep on the porch here, you can sleep inside and that's basically what I did for a little while until for some reason, it started to clear up. For some reason it started to take, and I started to understand. And the big turnaround, and I don't know when this happened. It may have been a year or so, maybe even more, that somebody asked me to sponsor them. And it scared the hell out of me. I was like, no, you really don't want me, I'm a mess and all this stuff. And my sponsor came up and he said, you got to do it. If they ask, they see something, so you got to do it.
Wow.
And so I said, okay, because I did what he told me to do. And he would take me out for pizza in the mornings. I ate more pizza.
So as a result, and actually with you being a sponsor for somebody else held you accountable, not only to that person, but you had to hold yourself accountable. So I would imagine that experience helped you to stay clean.
Well, it did, but 100% of it had the effect of, for some reason, it wasn't about me. I was responsible for somebody else at that point, which I really liked. I mean, all my life it was always about me and the things that I do, and are you going to love me? This was the first time I did anything, and I didn't care if a person loved me or not. I didn't take that person on to try to help them so that they would help me. I was trying to help them, and I liked it. And it was the first time in my life that I just realized I love helping people. I would come up with answers for people, would come and talk to me and stuff, and all of a sudden it just seemed like I was being sought out. And I mean, over the years there, I probably sponsored over 100 people throughout the whole time, awesome. And then I started, that's when the messages, we talked about me being a universal channel. A woman asked me what I was one time, and I said, I'm a universal channel, and I didn't know what I was saying. And, it was in a session, and I was channeling which I knew I was doing. I know I'm getting messages, but I thought it was just because I was crazy. But anyway, yeah, and I would get really good information. And this one day she said, instead of saying, who are you talking to? I'm paying you all this money to come and see you, because I was a relationship coach at the time. Are you crazy or what's wrong? She didn't ask any of that. She said, what are you? And I heard myself say, I'm a universal channel. And
So what does that mean?
well, that,
Explain to our
well,
audience what that means.
I am okay. I have a mantra that says I have no idea what's going on, but I know I'll be okay.
I love
In,
that.
in those situations where I was trying to help people out, I've never read a word, and still to this date, I have never read a word about partnership from anybody else. I've never read a book on relationships. I've never done any of that kind of stuff because I can't read. I have a very difficult time in I can read. I can, I don't know the best words. Okay, but yeah, I can certainly read, but I can't remember. The next day I have no recollection of what it was that I did.
Okay, so reading
So
retention is an issue.
yeah,
Retention.
and that was it. Even when I was young, I used to be able to fool people in the music industry, like with opera. If I could get you to sing it for me, I had it. But if you expected me to read it, and it wasn't going to happen. So I've had that all my whole life. Anyway, I start to get I started to get things that just didn't bother me. I just let them happen. Somebody would ask me something, and I would give them information that was being handed to me or handed through me. I would hear myself say stuff about somebody said, should I go to therapy? And I heard myself say, why don't you try to change some of these things first? And then if you want to go to therapy to find out why you screwed it all up, go ahead and do that. But something, it's easy enough to know that what you're doing doesn't work. That's easy. Okay. So why you're not doing it, maybe you just don't know how to do it a different way. So
And
let's help you find a different way. And then you want to spend, $1,000 a visit to go to a therapist and find out about why you did it. Be my guest, you know. And so those kinds of things, that kind of information just came to me, and it still does. It still comes to me. And the whole thing about being a universal channel is when I said that, I looked at the woman who asked the question, and she had this expression on her face like, oh, he's one of those. She just accepted it
ooh,
right off. Oh yeah, universal channel. Sure, I know. Sure, you're one of those things. I went home and I checked out what a universal channel is. I Googled it, and apparently I'm a TV station in Australia or Austria or something like that. Because there wasn't any reference to universal channel.
and it was you made it up, or it came to you and through
It,
spirit.
yeah,
It
it
came
did.
to you through spirit.
And it really is connected to, I want to help people out, and I don't have that information. And for some reason, I feel like the things that people need accumulate. Everybody wants to be loved. Everybody is putting that out into the universe. How am I become happy? How do I want to be loved? Everybody's out there, and it's a big piece of energy that is affecting everybody. And so what I do somehow is I'm somehow connected to that with some information, with try this. Why don't you try this? Let's do this. And so I don't know where it comes from outside of the fact that I just feel like a universal funnel.
Okay.
I think that that's where it comes down. It's like everything just sort of drains through me. And
And
Vera, Vera, I'm sorry, but I'm afraid of taking credit for it.
I
I,
understand.
I think if I took credit for it, it would stop. So
Well,
I'm gonna, yeah, it came
and let,
someplace else.
yeah, well, so let me say this. With all the stuff that you've gone through, with
Yeah,
all of those experiences, all of that led you to your purpose.
absolutely,
And
absolutely, yeah.
you couldn't do what you do if you hadn't experienced what you've experienced.
I've been set up for this.
Yes.
I I had so I left school in my sophomore year in my high school. I never went back to school, so I don't have any education, and I was married for a while. And I called up my ex-wife. We're friends now, and I called her up and I said, Joni, I said, did I get a GED? And she said, you tried to, but you were drunk and you failed. I said,
Oh,
"Ah, shit,
wow.
So I don't even have a GED,
Wow.
but I so this it is. I had a friend in sophomore year. Um, we did everything together. And there was a lot of guys that hung out together. We did everything together, and we also did drugs together. And I was supposed to be in Camden. I was supposed to. I didn't have anything planned, and I got a call to go into Philadelphia to talk to some people about a show. When I came back, he was dead. He had died, and if I had not gone, I may have been dead too.
What happened?
Heroin overdose.
Oh,
I
wow.
lost like 6 or 7 friends in my sophomore year. One friend was hung.
Sophomore?
Yeah. And one of my friends was hung out in front of our high school, in a tree in front of the high school. So when we were walking into school that day, my friend General was hanging in a tree with the cops all around the place. They didn't even have the decency to cut him down or anything like that. So, we got to see that, and several friends died of overdoses, and another friend died, in a fight and things. But yeah, it was rough. It was a rough area, but for most of us, it was there was an attitude that Camden had. Don't expect too much; you won't be too disappointed.
Oh, wow.
And so a lot of people that I lost so many friends, and it was yeah. And I escaped at 16. Is when I moved out into a commune, and I really started getting into this new age kind of thing, and
You were a
that.
flower child, huh?
Oh yeah, I was a big hippie. I was part of a I was part of a bit an underground railroad that were taking 60s, people in the 60s. We were getting them out into Canada, driving them into Canada, revolutionaries and stuff. It was fun, little
Wow.
little scary, and we would take them. Geez, I wish I could say names. They're not around. Two brothers, African American brothers that were a hoot, absolute hoot. They had a Domino sugar truck, that used to deliver the boxes of Domino sugar cubes.
Mhm.
They, they used to drive it. That was their car. And we used to smuggle people out of Camden and up through New York or wherever the route was, and get them into Canada in a sugar cube truck.
Wow. You've
So
had
yeah,
quite some experiences. So tell me about the transition from relationship to partnership. And I'm going to pull up your book. But before we even start that, I'm going to play a commercial,
okay,
and then we'll come back and talk about this.
all right.
Okay. So let me pull up a commercial right quick. Well, I'll pull up mine. Well, no, I don't want to do that. Okay.
In a world where authenticity is the key, unlock your brand's potential with ADM's game-changing marketing solutions. We craft striking logos that embody your brand's spirit and build websites that captivate and convert. Our lead generation strategies are tailored to your needs, driving growth and boosting your bottom line. And our content, well, it's not just content. It's a narrative, a story that connects and resonates with your audience. But here at ADM, we're about more than just exceptional services. We're about authenticity, about staying true to who you are and what you stand for, because realness, that's what makes a brand unforgettable. So if you're ready to elevate your brand with authenticity and excellence, follow this page. Dive deeper into the world of divine marketing and become part of our community. Because at ADM, we're not just about making brands, we're about making brands matter.
ADM, Authentic Divine Marketing. Ariel, Chime. This young lady will take your ideas, your concepts, your authenticity, and create videos and other promotional items that have you in mind. So check out Authentic Divine Marketing at bit.ly/divine chime. Tell them you heard it on the Vera Thomas Show, and her name is Ariel Chime. So check her out. Check her out. All right. All right. Now back to my question.
Uh-huh.
And so tell us about that transition and how you went from relationship to partnership, and
Yeah.
how is that so different?
It's interesting because part of what happens to me is that I see images. I'll get inside of a session when I'm working with somebody. I mean, I've gotten bicycles. I've gotten street signs. Like they show me these kinds of things, and and I'm supposed to use them somehow. In the sessions. I was. So I was working as a relationship coach,
What
and
made you get into
I
that?
it was a natural progression. I wanted to do something. I wanted to try and help people, and so the first thing I thought about was maybe I could be a hypnotherapist, which I did, and then that was fun and stuff. I didn't do stage stuff, which is interesting for somebody with my background, but I did very serious things. I've worked with doctors, and I would do pre and post operative hypnotherapy to help people either calm down or people that had troubles with being under an anesthetic or something, and I would do hypnosis for that. And then I would help people out, and with blockages and this type of thing. But I kept getting these messages that this was not what I was supposed to do. It was an uncomfortable feeling. I liked doing what I was doing, but I knew that I had to move on, and it was a natural progression for me from. I would do a little less hypnosis and a little bit more talking and a little bit less hypnosis. And eventually the hypnosis just went by the wayside. I had an office. I took my shingle down for hypnosis, and I went from that. And I was very happy to make the move to doing relationship coaching. And so I liked that for a while. Now, I don't know if you can tell, but I'm a very patient person. I'm an extremely patient person. But after so many years, there was a pattern that was occurring all the time where people would come to me and they would want to know how to fix what they did. How do you fix what they did? And I, being an empath and this type of thing, I would like, it's a shame that they have to hurt to begin with. People have got to hurt in order to look for help, in order to do this kind of stuff. Maybe there's some kind of way out there that could help prevent the hurting. Maybe that's what it was. And then I saw the pictures that I was talking about. I saw a thing where relationships were here, and then partnership rose. Partnership rose up top, and it was there was a lot of distance between what partnerships do for people and what relationships do. I started to recognize the fact that relationships, these people that were coming to me, I hate to say it, but they were coming to me and they were acting like children. They were like, yeah, it hurt me, my feelings, and what am I going to do? And how are we going to let this go? And I kept saying, partnership started to appear like another step in adulthood. It started saying I started getting the images and I started getting more and more information about it. And the idea that wait a second, the problem here is that in a relationship, the relationships are divisive. There's a man, there's a woman. Man acts like a man. He takes his lead from his father. He takes his lead from every other man out there. And those guys didn't know what they were doing either. They didn't not know how to treat women. They did not know how to benefit from being connected to somebody. I'm channeling, by the way, so you're going to see a difference there. And women were the same thing. Women had, their roles. They're supposed to be mommies. They're supposed to do all this kind of stuff. The guy's supposed to lead them. All this type of stuff was supposed to happen. And it was division. It kept people apart because they were playing these roles that did not work for them. And I started to realize that the thing that we needed to do was bring people together. We needed them to meet each other, find out that they like each other, find out all the normal stuff, maybe fall in love, maybe get some, some spark or whatever they're going to do, and then decide to propose to each other. And the proposal is, would you like to be partners? And at that point, I know why I'm with this person. I know why I value this person. We have a very good time. The likelihood is that we communicate well, and I'm probably going to be able to get my happiness by working with her and finding out what she needs, and she does it to me. And so if all that's happening, let's take all of that off the table. We want to be together. Good. We want to care about each other. Good. Let's take it off the table and then find out how to protect it. And we protect it by both of us admitting that we want this kind of stuff. We're going to build a partnership. So we have to find out, and we have to turn each other into equals. And we have to learn that the most important thing that we do is protect the partnership at all costs. So we're partners first, and then we have issues with work. We're partners first, and we have families that we have to deal with. So last time we went to your Aunt Helen's place, we got into a big fight. We got tired. How do we fix that before we go and see Aunt Helen again? What's the way? Do you need me to, she treated you badly. Do you need me to cover your back? What do you want me to do so that together we're going to protect what it is that we say we want? What's important to us is our partnership, and our job is to turn each other into the best partner that we can have.
Okay, so do you have some tips on how people can do that? I have pulled your book up. And let me pull it back up again. And so this universal guide to healthy selfish partnerships.
Yeah, relationship is crossed out.
Yes.
And that tells people, I think the thing about this, the healthy selfishness is very important, and it really does throw people. In a partnership. Okay, so I went to Cheesecake Factory yesterday with my honey,
Mm-hmm.
and I looked at this woman that I really do love and I really do care for. I can tell you that 29 years together, and she has probably, I would imagine, there's been maybe 10 times in all of that time and that we were together that she did not get a foot massage. Okay. Every night. And it's like she just sits there, we're watching television, and then all of a sudden there's a foot in my lap.
Oh,
and I love it because because of who my partner is, she's very different from me. I mean, nobody would ever suspect that the two of us would be partners together. I'm completely out of my mind. She's like very, she's easygoing. She's just very different. But I do all this stuff for her. I listen to her. I tell her that she's important. I treat her like a partner. I draw her into things that are going on with me. I share everything with her. I give her foot massages. I won't walk past her without touching her somehow, on the shoulder or something like that.
Well, let me
Everybody,
ask you. Let me ask
yeah.
you. Have you delved into love languages? Because what you're doing, it feels like a love language that you are doing.
It absolutely is, but it takes it a little bit further, because from the outset, it looks like I do all these things, for my woman, for my
Mhm,
person, you know.
mhm.
But the reason that I do it for her is because of me. I do all of this stuff. I treat her really well because I'm a selfish person. I want to treat her well. I want her to feel loved and cared for, because at the end of the day, it comes back and it makes me happy.
Okay, so let me ask you this.
Yeah.
So, healthy selfishness,
Mhm.
how would you define that? Because I have it written to put in the comments, but how would you define that? Healthy
Uh,
selfishness.
healthy selfishness is really trying to find out, what my partner needs and be able to provide it as much as possible, because it's good for me. If I don't do those things, if I don't care about Janet, if I don't care about, like getting in touch with her, if I'm going to be late and I don't do all this kind of stuff, I'm going to, if I do it once, she's going to be a little upset about it. Why didn't you call? If I do it twice, she's going to be a little bit more upset. If I do it 3 or 4 times, she's going to think, yeah, maybe he doesn't care about me anymore. If I do it 5 or 6 times, she's going to be sure I don't care about her anymore. And then she's going to be a pain. Okay. She's going to be hard to live with. So when I talk to men about this kind of stuff,
Oh
and
my goodness.
I tell them, listen, it will change. But in the very beginning, do all this kind of stuff so that she's not a pain in the ass. Just do it for that reason. And
Well,
then
let
you'll
me ask
find,
you this.
yeah,
So, and I don't mean to interrupt you, but
right
um,
ahead.
all right. So you're doing all this stuff for her to keep her even keel.
Yeah.
What does she do for you? Because it's a partnership. So,
Absolutely. Well, you see, that's the other side of it. If we were sitting here, she would be telling you that she checks on me every day. She makes sure that my podcasts went well. She asks me about my business. She when I finished the book, and I'm a man, and I said, it's done. It's done. I'm finished. It's done. I'm going to send it off to the publisher. And she came in and she said, I'd like to read it before you send it out. And I went,
well, let me ask you something.
yeah,
Because it would seem to me that having her read it before you send it to the publisher would be a no-brainer. That you would just let her
yeah, but
do
you see,
that.
yeah, but you see, in my mind, she's been watching it the whole time. She's been seeing it go on the whole time. She knows everything that I'm going to say. We talk about it. She's seen the chapters, but what she didn't see, and what I needed to recognize, is that she needed to see it one time with a different set of eyes. She needed to look at this thing and not talk, and not anymore. She wasn't going to talk, or she wasn't going to look at it for the dialogue. She was going to check it out, and she was going to make sure that all the commas were there, All the periods were in place. Everything that needed to be done that might possibly turn somebody off from me. She wanted to make sure that that was absolutely perfect. She came to me. She started to read it. She was about 5 pages in, and she said, "Is this what you meant?" And I looked at it and I went, "Yeah, that's what I meant." She said, "Read it again." And I read it again and I said, "Yeah, that's not what I meant." And she picked up on it. But you see, she is, women bring different things to these kinds of things. She's complicated, she's very complex, and she brings all of these wonderful things that women do. She did not want her name on the book. She wanted to make sure that she did everything so her partner could be successful. That was
Beautiful.
her, that was her focus.
And in hearing this story is beautiful. It's
Yeah,
I mean,
it
because
really is.
you are sharing what partnership
Yeah,
versus relationship is about.
yeah,
When we think of relationship, we think only in terms of romance,
yeah.
probably.
Yeah, and people, Vera, in the past couple of weeks, now this is just recent, I've started to realize that people still take my book and they want to put it right in the category with all the other relationship books. Now I don't know where else it's going to go, but I do want them to believe, to know that this book is not about relationships. You can have a relationship down the line if you want to, and you could use this to help you have a really good relationship. But this is to tell you that there's a flaw, there's an innate flaw that is in every single relationship out there. And until we recognize that, until we recognize that, our parents showed us how to be in a relationship. They didn't tell us how to be in a relationship. They did not tell us about the fact that they sit down, they argue, and then they sit down and they're angry at each other, and then they wait for a week or two, and then they start to forget about it, and then eventually they forget about it and everything goes back in, which tells us that time heals all. And that's a terrible way to fix anything.
Right.
And it's,
And you should never, as a in relationships,
yeah.
at and this is scripture, you should never go to bed angry with each other.
Yeah, well, they see they can do that, but the problem is still there.
Well, you
The,
talked about it, communications.
yeah, but you generally will talk about the issue that happened and fix that, but not the deeper problem on how did we make each other feel? You know, anything that you do, and especially like I believe strongly that women are the gatekeepers in these kinds of things. I think that women will say, yeah, that's nice that you didn't call, but you know something, when you didn't call, it made me feel like you don't care. Now, the calling, a guy can say, well, wait a minute, I was doing this and I will call you and I'll call you again. And she'll go, yeah, okay, call me again. But it still didn't touch the fact that it made her feel like I didn't care.
Eh,
That's the one, and that's on the other side of relationships. And when a woman does feel like she cares, then the man benefits too. We just don't know how to do it.
Right. And the way you couch that, this made me feel. So,
Yeah.
where partnerships and relationships are concerned, that may be how you want to start a conversation instead of pointing the finger. You did this and you did that. You
That's
might want to, when this happened, it made me feel,
yeah.
and bring it to yourself and
So
address the issue from that perspective.
so it takes a little while for people to understand that the issues are not important. The issues are an opportunity for us to work together to find out how the issue made us feel. So if the
Okay,
issues are not
I wanna put that down. The issue
issues
is
are not important. They're opportunities. They present opportunities for us to work together.
okay, keep talking. We're almost
Negative
out of time.
Negativity is the same way. People say, "Oh, you did this," and all this negative stuff happened. And the truth of the matter is that negativity is not supposed to remain negative. You're supposed to look at negativity and say, what are we
Right.
supposed to
How
get
do
out
we
of this?
fix it? Yes.
Yeah,
But
because
wait a
yeah,
minute.
go
I
ahead.
want to finish writing this down. I can't believe we're almost out of time. The issue is not important. They present opportunity.
Yeah, the issues present an opportunity for us to work together and fix whatever the feelings were that were triggered. See what I'm saying there?
Yeah.
See, when people take an action, it triggers something inside. And if you tell somebody that, you really made me, I felt so insecure. And a person says, I don't understand why you'd be insecure. Why should you be insecure? I love you. I do all this kind of stuff. It is not doing anything for the fact that it triggered an insecurity in you. So you may not do the same thing that triggered that insecurity, but you're bound to do something else that triggers the insecurity because you did not work at the insecurity. You didn't say, "Hey, listen, the other day something happened. It was an issue, and I know that it brought up your insecurity. So I would really like to sit here and tell you how important you are to me, what you mean to me. That I didn't mean to do those things, and I don't want you to be insecure. So I'm going to tell you how I value you, how I love you, how I care about you, what you do for me, all this kind of stuff. If it's not connected to the issue, then it could actually be something that we can work at because the insecurity is always there. It just gets kicked into gear because of an issue. You know, and so unless you deal with the insecurity without the issue, it's going to be there, and it's just waiting for another opportunity to happen. So maybe one day we'll actually deal with the insecurity and not the issue.
And this is really good food for thought. So I want to recap a couple things that you said. One,
Sure.
it's not the situation or the issue. That issue or situation is an opportunity
Yes.
to better understand each other, communicate with each other, express how things make you
Mhm.
feel.
Yeah.
And also, a lot of times in relationships, partnerships, people will say, "You made me do this. You made me feel this way. You made me that."
Uh-huh.
We only have control over how we relate, react, and respond.
Yeah.
And in actuality, Eleanor Roosevelt even said, "No one can make you feel inferior without your permission." I
Mhm.
say, no one can make you feel any kind of way without
Yeah.
your permission.
Yeah. Uh, you'd want to be safe. You'd want to be in a situation with somebody that you feel safe with so that you can express the fact that, I felt very hurt by what you did. And so, see, the thing about this is that the issues are going to continuously change. They're like little minor glitches, and they're going to
Mhm.
change. The thing that remains the same is how we treat each other.
It,
So we want to take those opportunities to learn how to treat each other better. And that I want to be on a porch someplace in some, I don't know. I want to go to Italy, but but not so.
you'll go.
I want to be on a porch someplace with my partner, and know why we're there together, and be connected with her, and loving. A couple months ago, I sat there on the sofa watching television, and I looked at her and I said, I can't believe that. I really can't believe that I love you more than I did.
And
Just
how
last
long have
week,
you guys been together?
29 years.
Wow, that's so beautiful. And
Yeah.
listen, we've got less than a minute left. I want to thank you for being here. Time really went away really fast.
It did. Yeah, it's good.
Yes. And so thank you so much for being here. I'm going to pull you down. Do you have a final word right quick?
No, just a final word. Look at everything that's been told to you and find out if it's something that works for you.
I love it.
Don't trust anything that anyone has said unless you have looked at it and said yes.
I
Yeah,
love that. I
that's for
love
me.
that. That
Okay.
I love that. Well, listen, I'm going to pull you down and then I'm going
Okay.
to bring you back up as soon as I close out, okay?
Okay.
All right.
Bye,
Hold
everybody.
on. All right. Well, listen, I hope you got as much out of this as I did and we will see you next week. God bless you. And, have a wonderful weekend and try not to be so stressed out with things that are going on. God's got this, He's in control. So let Him do His work and you let go and let Him do His work. All right. God bless you. And we will see you next week.
The